gonna keep fighting hard. I'm gonna keep working hard to be better player every moment, to keep fighting for the most important things. And I am trying since long time. Sometimes this tournament have been tough for me in terms of injuries, and other times in terms of opponents, like tonight. So I'm gonna keep fighting. I'm gonna keep practicing. Gonna keep putting all the things that I have to come back and to give myself better chances in the future. I can't thank enough all the people, all the fans have been fantastic during the both weeks.
Well, good day, good evening, good night, fans, friends, my two co-hostesses with the mostesses. I don't know about you ladies, but I think I am recovered now. I can speak now. I can actually use words. I have given my report to the police. And yes. Okay, I mean, let me just start off by saying this is unacceptable. In the era of Me Too, Nole shouldn't be fucking Divadal like that at all. That is unacceptable. One should not be violated like that. I mean, y'all could call what y'all want to call it, but I'm telling you, that score line, if we watched, those who watched the match know that basically was triple bagel. Just saying. But before I go any further, let me introduce my co-hostesses with the mostesses. Let me introduce Andreen, who is actually traveling. Solely is traveling, and she is all the way from Melbourne, and we have her live on the scene. Andreen, this is like
I'm live on my scene the way everyone is live on. Laying in bed. I'm laying in bed trying to recover from the final, apparently.
Laying in bed in Melbourne.
You messed it up, Andreen. You're supposed to pretend like you're supposed to pretend like you're in special victims unit, like you're on the scene. Like, you know, like
listen, I've experienced maulings throughout the years.
That is true. Unless you've been attending since 2011.
Listen, we're Federer fans. We've seen maulings. It'll be okay.
We've been through way worse than this.
Actually, I'm gonna have to disagree on that one. But let's not get there just yet.
Okay.
And we have Janina, who is going off to a mission for us later on this week. She's in foreign Ohio. What's going on, Janina?
I'm prepping. I'm in full prep mode.
They brought a tournament to foreign Ohio.
That's right. I haven't told Reels and Andreen this yet, so I'll break it to everyone right now. We're going to be doing a lot of podcasting this week. They'll be short, but I'm going to share with you guys what's happening at the ATP Challenger level, because I will be live on the ground in fucking cold Cleveland. I am warning everyone right now that we are due for record-setting freezing temperatures. I feel genuinely sad for the people coming from Australia. There are a couple. You are going to freeze your fucking balls off. Dress warm.
Good thing you don't have you don't have a pair. So before I go any further, let me close to myself, the homosexual of the podcast. Hey Maya, hey Tony. Tony, how are you doing? I mean, I'm just gonna say Karma is a bitch and his name is Nole. Just saying, Tony. Just saying. But anyway, Lord. I see Bella Michelle here. I see Yvette here. I see Zenobia.
Who is Rich? I don't know who Rich is. Hello, Rich.
I see Jonesy. I see.
This is what happens when we do podcasts during the middle of the day.
Yeah, Bella Michelle
get a whole different audience.
Bella Michelle, we work for free, okay? I gotta go to a job, okay? They have me more podcasting, okay?
No, we're gonna have awesome. Podcasts.
There's a limit. There is a limit.
There's no limit, bitches. Okay, moving on. So guess what? The Australian Open just rolled out, over, done. We have to talk about it.
Yeah, we do. But, before I even... I mean, we paid for Andreen to go to Melbourne, so she should at least tell us what's going on.
That's true. Melbourne.
Oh, wow. I'm looking forward to... I'm looking forward to those checks in the mail. Thanks.
Oh wait, so
I want you to check every
Janine is
day.
in charge of the finance department. She does the reimbursement. But unfortunately, that money is gonna send her to Foreign Ohio to cover a challenger event. So
listen, no, this is great. This is great. I'm having a really good time. But I've had 2 days of tennis. I went for Monday evening of the second week, which I think I actually ended up getting the best match. I'm suggesting I got the best match of the tournament.
What was it? What'd you see?
I saw Serena versus Halep. I think that's actually was a really, really compelling match. And then I saw Novak versus our lovely favorite Russian, and I mean that was problematic for Novak too. So that might have been Novak.
Yeah, it's comb over. There's no comb over today. I'm excited about that.
So that might have been Novak's most challenging match if you look at the final. So I think I got the best matches that. and then I went on Tuesday day. So I got a chance to see RBA and Tsitsipas, which was a thing. And then I saw Collins versus Pavs. I think that was okay. I think it was good, actually. I absolutely adore the Australian Open. Every slam. I'm like Novak and Rafa. No, in the thank you ceremony. Everyone should basically imitate the Australian Open. I mean, my lord. They basically all got up there and was like, hello, other slams. This is the shit. Sorry.
Well,
so what's so great about it? Like, why is it so much better?
I think the sunshine. I mean, like, it helps. It helps that they have.
What? You know why it's the best?
They have more sunshine than everywhere else, right?
No, you know what it is. Don't. No, it's the reason why it's the best slam is that it is the most cost effective in terms of tickets. You pay. I mean, even though the men's final, I think tickets were going for $600. That's actually cheap compared to what you are paying
opening night ceremony down in the closer to the first tier, like from the upwards. That's $600 just to be the opening night.
Exactly.
Some bad singing and some hot mess production.
Yeah. So it's the Rod Laver Arena is a great arena to watch tennis in. It is. There's like. Their nosebleeds is basically the lower tier of Arthur Ashe. Okay.
Oh wow!
I actually noticed that this time around. I really looked at I was looking for you, and I was just like, oh my god, this is Arthur Ashe. You get vertigo. You get vertigo. Yep. like.
You get like you're about to lose. So if you contrast it, and then I'm plugging a little bit. I'm gonna do a quick comparison on SolelyTennisTravels.com when I land on Monday. But and I go into a little bit more detail. But really, the stadium is fantastic. The pricing for the tickets is great. Also, just the grounds. There's so many places for you to just kind of chill out on the grounds, and these people are just sports enthusiasts, so there's that vibe. There's just that energy and that enjoyment of whoever is playing. Like, even if you don't like them, it's sports, and it just seems to me that Aussies love sports, period. Whatever is happening. So that's a very specific kind of vibe.
Jonesy asked whether Rod Laver Arena is better than Center Court.
It is comparable. It is comparable in terms of the views and the seating. That's the real thing. And also, it might be a little bit better than Center Court only in the way that, it's just beautiful the way the sun shines and casts this beautiful glow. No, and it's a beautiful glow, but it's very close. It's very close. I actually, in my blog, I make that note that they're very similar in what they offer to you in terms of. Oh, but you know what? Let me just say why it beats Center Court. The bathroom.
You just be real. Tune, right? Are you just like, oh, it's
no? I just thought about it. You know what? Because I thought about it just in terms of comfort and in terms of what you would care about as a fan, and the bathroom situation, modern facilities. center court could do with a little bit of upgrade in some of the way that it handles its
What do they
bathroom
have?
situation.
Pit latrines? Is that what they have?
No, they don't have pit latrines. They don't have pit latrines, but I think the thing is they don't have as many. They don't have as many to accommodate all the people, and so Rod Laver is just constantly being modernized and updated, and it's a great place to watch sports.
They use that space as a stadium as well for like concerts and whatever.
Yeah,
so I think that helps. The U.S. Open they don't do anything there at all. Subsequently, I think only recently they put on like one concert and like a play at one point. But other than that, nothing else happens there for like until the U.S. Open. So
I mean, I think the
4 weeks of action.
Yeah, I mean, I think the contrast is you've got Classic, which is definitely Wimbledon Classic, and Vibe, and it has like a hallowed hall feeling to it. And then you have something like Rod Laver, which is very modern and glassy with and with all the sun shining through. And so that I think it probably depends on your taste. And the vibe that you're going for. But definitely Australian Open has a very sporty vibe. And it's just nice to be around the stands and around the people who are just so enthusiastic. I happened to be here. I was leaving the night that Ashley Barty was playing, and the grounds was just alive. So when their local players doing well, the sportiness even ramps up. Like people were running around buying Australia t-shirts so that they could rep their country. I mean, they just really get into it. So that really creates a nice atmosphere, which is very different than the U.S. Open, where it's just as crowded, but it just you don't have the sense that it's a sports. You don't have the sense that it's a sporting event. You just have the sense that it's an event to be seen at. It's a very different crowd. So
you mean the people there actually like tennis?
They do. They're there to enjoy the tennis and the sport. It's really weird.
Like, who is she? What's her ranking? Let me Google her.
I think that. I mean, you know what's so funny? They might very well be there, but at least they're there for the sporting, right? And to be with each other and to enjoy the whole vibe. I will say the food was but I definitely took advantage of the drinks. So
the drinks are cheap there, right?
I think the drinks are fine. I think there's and I mean I think I paid $10 for my drink, 10 Aussie dollars, which I think translates
alcoholic beverage.
Right? We don't have the same money. Let her talk about the exchange rate. Settle down.
Yeah, so I know, but I think the exchange is something like one. So I think maybe that's like $8, maybe $7, something like that. In my mind, I've been trying to switch it up in my head, but it doesn't matter too much. Yeah, I was very lucky for those drinks.
Alcoholic beverage, you're saying it's $7.
Something like that in terms of the exchange. If I'm not mistaken. I didn't feel. I didn't think. Yeah. I mean, and I think what was I having? It's not like. There's some tents where they're wanting you to pay a ton of money for like sparkling wine and stuff like that. You know how like the U.S. Open wants you to pay $20-something for Moet Chandon? I'm like, no. The thing I've been getting off on here is I think they have this thing called Aperols, which is this like orange-based liqueur, I think. But then they mix it up with sparkling water or Prosecco, which I'm in heaven right there. That's all I drank.
Dennis said it's an Aperol Spritz.
Aperol Spritz. See, he knows. That's all I drank.
Of course he knows.
I mean, I have to say, I'm super jealous. I'm super jealous of the Australians for having this as their hometown slam. That's just in their backyard.
And it's easy to get to, right?
It's super easy to get to. I mean, all the signs point to it and tell you where the hell to go. So if you are, if you're very sporty, there's like a walkway that you can walk straight from downtown, which is at one of their main train stations, and just walk straight to the tennis. Like it's a guided path, and you end up walking directly to the gates, which is amazing. Or if you're like me, the first day and I didn't know about it, I was like, could I get a ride to the tennis? So I just hopped on a tram, and then the tram drops you right in front, cross the street, the and then enter right into the tram, right into the Australian Open. Fantastic! It was great.
Going to the U.S. Open seems like a journey. If you're taking public transport.
It does feel like a journey, but I have to say, I think they're similar in the sense that they create a path for you to get there. You know exactly where you're going. You know, once you get to the U.S. Open stop, you do know there's no other place for you to go except to the U.S. Open.
Like,
you know what I mean? It's pretty clear.
Stadium from where exactly you can hear the chariot. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, they built an old wooden what you call those things again? Oh my god.
Boardwalk.
Yeah, boardwalk.
Yeah,
they
boardwalk.
built one of those. But I mean, I guess for you it doesn't feel that bad because you stay in Manhattan or in Queens. It's just like, whoop, jump and a hop and a skip away. But to me, coming from Brooklyn, it's just like, especially if you stay for the night session, it's just like, oh my god, like it is hell to get home.
I do think the
train runs local all the way there. So
there's one quirk that I had a problem with, and I was trying to figure it out. You know, like I will say this is an improvement that the U.S. Open has on Oz, is that like on the night of the Nole match, so it was Tuesday. I mean, I was kind of done with the match, and I really wanted to see Kei Nishikori play PCB, I think it was. And I was like, I'm more interested in the outcome of that match. I just kind of I like both of those players better. And so I really wanted to hop into Margaret Court Arena. And I realized that, if it was a US Open, I could most likely go into the upper tier level where I didn't have to pay. They don't have that here. They didn't have that for Margaret Court Arena.
Oh, wow.
I went
one ticket gets all
kind of like situation like it is at the U.S. Open. I mean, it's nosebleeds, but like if you pay for Ash at the U.S. Open, you can go into other stadiums. Right. You can go into Armstrong on the upper level, as you know. And I was sort of thinking that something comparable would be here for the Australian Open, but there wasn't that. The woman said, "Oh, you'd have to pay full price to go into Margaret Court Arena right now." And I was like, "Oh, that's too bad."
Bitch. See, that's why I don't fuck with Peggy. See, Peggy is messy and all front. All front Peggy is messy.
Yeah, I do. So that's a nice little perk that the U.S. Open does have, which is that, I mean, it might be packed, but at least there's the possibility that you could go into sort of quote unquote free unassigned seats.
Oh, well, Dennis mentioned something which I think might be the case why the U.S. Open offer that. It's because those stadiums in Rod Laver and Peggy are small courts. Whereas the U.S. Open,
they are. They're big. They're monstrous. So they have that. They have that offer. Space. I mean, yeah. But I think I would actually say that maybe Armstrong. I don't think it rivals Rod Laver at all. Not really. But I think that's probably
in terms of like seating, the amount of seats.
In terms of seating, it's probably about the same. And so if basically Armstrong was the only stadium that was the biggest stadium at the U.S. Open, I think people would be really happy. You'd feel okay with your seats, right? Because you were up in sort of the higher level seats.
Girl, no,
Armstrong.
You do not subject people to hell. I mean, that was.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there's some heating issues.
If the old Armstrong was fun to be in there.
Yeah, sorry.
New shit. Ooh.
Yeah, and so you know what? And also, let me just say, I was fortunate to be at the tennis on the days that it wasn't ridiculously hot. So even on Tuesday when I had really great seats. Fuck you, Federer. I had really great seats because I'm sure they probably would have given us Federer versus RBA that day. And given Rafa that night session as they did. It wasn't brutal. So I wasn't in direct sunlight. I think it started in direct sunlight and then it just moved. So I didn't experience the massive heat problems that others have spoken about. I was lucky enough for the 2
flying
days.
off to someplace else.
I was in Auckland at that time, so yeah. But anyway, it's been a fun tournament. I would love to come back. I'm even thinking about it in the back of my mind, like, can I come back? How can I make this happen? It is a great stadium. I think everybody is right about the constant improvements. I haven't seen what it was, but it feels to me as a very just engaging, fun space to be for a couple hours. And the price points, ridiculously good price points. Now, of course, I do have a little bit of an exchange rate, but I had to point it out to somebody who I was talking to who was a local, and that's not Dennis. I was like, you guys are actually quite fortunate, because I think we were having a conversation about their nosebleed seats, and I was like, honey, that's not nosebleeds. I was like, I had to give a little bit of perspective. I was like,
and Dennis wants you to point out that Melbourne Arena is free.
Yes, Melbourne Arena is free. Except at the time, I think nobody was playing in there that I wanted to see even for free.
Oh, damn. Was it Novak?
No. But you know what? No.
Arthur Ashe, I'm telling you, Arthur Ashe, they could repurpose that whole thing for ski jumping. I mean, you're so high up.
You are so high
up.
So I mean,
we're glad we sent you. We're glad that you
it was good.
money was well spent.
Yes, I didn't even mind that I got here and after my flight and Federer had lost before I even landed, so I didn't even mind that.
Yeah, we were concerned about you. People were concerned. I should say Dennis was concerned about you. Said, you think she would know? Well, I'm just like, there is communication on an airplane at this time. It's kind of like,
do you know what? There really wasn't actually, because there's not any Wi-Fi or anything like that. It was fine. I had a sneaking suspicion.
Wait. Hold up. Let me just see if I get this correct. They have you travel across the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean. Which is like 12, 15-hour flight, right? Right?
Yeah.
Was there Wi-Fi if you wanted it, Andreen? If you wanted to pay for it, was it available?
Maybe this is why that plane in Malaysia disappeared. Maybe somebody was fighting and then the whole thing just like collapsed. Like, how are people not killing each other on an airplane?
Hey, guess what? Reels, there never used to be Wi-Fi in a plane, no matter where you went. So
exactly, relax. It is what it is. It is. No,
yeah, but here's the thing. And there was a time where there wasn't car. We used to use horse and buggy. But I don't see you trying to get on a horse and buggy to go anywhere.
You know what?
Horses and buggies all the time in Ohio. Hello,
yeah, but they ain't trying to do. They stopped there. They ain't going no further. Okay.
Well, you know what though? It was funny because I sometimes on the plane, you'll have like a news station, and I was like, well, at least the news will be updatable. First of all, there was nothing updatable. Everything was all recorded, So I was like, I landed, and it was all of my DMs.
Zone,
I know it was just my. No, I was fine, but it was just because I learned my lesson. I slept 8 to 10 hours of the flight just to make sure, because I knew my ass was going to be at the tennis late that night, and I did not want to be sleeping.
Oh yeah, that is true. You landed and went to tennis.
Exactly, because that's how I roll. But no, what happened was I woke up. I mean, when I landed, my phone went off because it was still my phone functioning, and then all I heard was my phone was buzzing from all my DMs, and everybody's like, "I'm so sorry," and I was like, "Fuck you, Federer, I knew it." But you know what? I've been doing this a long time, y'all, and I have disassociated. Listen, I love Federer, but I have disassociated from Federer doing well at a slam when I'm visiting. It's important to do that, because when you spend a lot of money to get to these places, it cannot be connected to one player. It just can't.
Nope.
It can't. And so
even the theater, because the understudy will get a time to go on.
I know. No, I mean the thing that's most important to me, which is so weird, right, is that Federer is actually still playing. That sounds odd. Like even though I didn't get to see him,
I know. I've been saying this
theoretically. Yeah, theoretically, I could have. When he retires, it's going to be a different feeling. But as long as he's around, I really enjoy it. I'm good with it, really.
I appreciate that.
Do you know what I mean? So, and the last slam that I went to was Roland Garros 2009. And listen, I didn't get to see him in the stadium because Roland Garros is shit like that. But I was on the grounds as he was fighting from 2 sets down against Tommy. So Federer and I have a love-hate relationship at slams. I go there hoping to see him, and like the U.S. Open, I didn't see him. Remember?
That's like me and Audra McDonald. I paid like, I'm gonna see Audra, and then I miss her one time, and then I see her the next time. So I paid to see her like 4 times, and I've only seen her twice.
Exactly. That's how we roll.
So, in a nutshell, everybody needs to go to Australia because
if you can afford it and make it all happen, flight and all of that crap aside, it as a tournament itself is very much enjoyable, super enjoyable. So I can't say anything. I can't say too much about it. For the people who are local, they might have grievances, but I'm always looking at these things in contrast to each other.
Right.
And so in contrast to each other, it's definitely a step above most of the other slams. Very much so.
Well, on to the tennis. So there was a tournament this week.
Yes.
For the past 2 weeks.
And let me just say, Mr. Smith got a hold of my drawers and he just ripped them the fuck
I'm pretty sure
I mean, the Matrix got me, people. The Matrix got me. It got me.
The Matrix got me, ate me up, spit me out fucking times. I took all the pills. I couldn't rectify the situation.
But I guess some of the positive takeaway I can see on the men's side, well, apparently, what's his name? Francis was saving all his energy for the Australian Open. He was like,
really? He was. What a run! What a run for him!
Like, he made a point because Serena needed a match practice, not him. You know what I mean? She needed to win the single. You know what I mean? I just like, these are useless doubles, mixed doubles, like whatever.
I mean, he got further than Federer, so.
And plus, he doesn't do well with the 4 games. He doesn't do good well. He doesn't do well with the 4-game tournament format, the fast 5, fast 4, whatever.
But you know what? Though I have to say,
at Milan.
No, it was fantastic for him. I mean, what a wonderful breakout story, and also I have to say, it made me very happy to see his celebrations, because that tells me that Tiafoe has more personality than he's been showing.
So he was so fun to watch. Like, I was like,
adorable.
Yes, praise the Lord.
And not only that too, he definitely knows how to bring the crowd in.
That was lovely. That was really wonderful.
You guys, we have an American man we can cheer for, and he's black. Oh shit.
You always had an American man that you could cheer for. Are you now telling me that you are now sometime-ish you're only going to cheer for him when he's winning matches, Janina?
No, I'm not saying that. I don't want it to be a Trump supporter.
We drag you because we love you too. Drag you because we love you. Okay. I mean,
what's the rankings jump? What's the rankings jump for him?
What's the rankings jump? I'm sure he knows. Hurry up, Chad.
I mean, tell us that, Chad, because that's amazing. That's an amazing run for him.
Chad is
that
busy
is going
chanting
to cure him.
in the chat.
He is up to 28 in the world. He moved
that's
up
wonderful.
11 spots.
That's wonderful.
Meanwhile,
that's a wonderful.
Ooh, he's up to number 30.
No, 28. Yeah. Kyle
Chad says 30. I believe him.
Okay, so and we're gonna let that tussle move. So that's a great takeaway. I love your takeaway from week 1.
On the men's side.
What's your takeaway from the women?
Well, can you contrast it to Danielle Collins' run? That was just as magical, no?
I guess, but I mean, like,
I mean, realistically, it was even better, right? She went a little bit further.
Yes.
She had never even won a Grand Slam match ever, and this bitch gets
on paper,
to the semifinals.
That was on paper.
Yeah,
but
I mean, on paper, but also in real life. I mean, the people she beat the person that everyone thought was going to win the slam. They thought Kerber was winning.
Come on.
I forgot about that beatdown because this one is still fresh in my mind. But I'm telling you, ladies, that Collins Kerber, god damn, Collins slapped the taste out of her mouth. It's just like, bitch, go home. We don't want you here. Like, I am going through here. I mean, like, it was like, I mean, generally the American women, like, they don't do shit. It's always Serena. The Williams sisters have been carrying the banner, consistently, and they're reliable-ish. You know what I mean? But Collins just came out of nowhere, and when she seized the moment. Like, she was that, because Kenin could have one of those moments too.
But I was trying to look at her tennis. I didn't understand why. Listen, I'll just reveal myself. I didn't understand why she was having such an impact. I mean, it seemed to be, okay, fine, you've never played her, so there's a surprise element. But it's not as if she had a big game that you couldn't wrangle.
I
Do you know
think
what
she
I mean?
studied. I think she studied the player.
She must have studied
She
them,
studied them. She
right?
studied them.
And went after their weaknesses.
She was hitting the shit out of the ball. Are you kidding me? She was.
I mean, listen.
Yes,
lots
but
of people.
lots of people do that.
Lots of people hit the shit out of the ball. I mean, they all do. And I mean, but if you saw, because the thing is,
because
listen. I was watching Pavs and her. And Pavs was in full control of that match until suddenly she wasn't. And so that's when I was like, oh, do you know what I mean? I was like, well, Pavs has got a read on this. She was serving. Pavs was reading well. Wherever Collins hit the ball, Pavs was there, which, shockingly, because, we don't always think of Pavs' movement. But she was in full control of that match until suddenly she had a couple loose games, and then Daniel sort of snatched the second set. And then from that point on, it was Pavs wilted. Yeah. I mean, I think Daniel's fitness is probably a huge part of what she had to bring to the table.
Mental, because Kenin could have had that moment as well.
Yeah.
And Kenin sort of collapsed. And I think, I don't know how it would last throughout the rest of the year, if ever again, because, ever so often, an American woman show up and, like, oh my God, she's going to be great. But then, then she's not.
Yeah, but you never know. You never know how long they...
But I mean, even if she's a ball basher, and as you said, there are lots of ball bashers they're really mentally fit, right? They would just be hitting as soon as one error creeps in, then the whole game collapse. But she definitely stuck with it. And I really expected, because Pavs beat Sloane. Sloane was positive.
It was late at night. It was late at night.
Sloane was done. Yeah. She is right. She just like, look, I like to work a 9 to 5. Okay, I don't do well with overtime. I don't.
I mean, it's true. I feel her, because I don't know how these women are getting up for late night matches after this horrible scheduling issues. You know what I mean? I'm just like, listen, who's starting a match at 3 a.m.? Come on now. And I know Sloan was like, beauty rest is going to be.
You have to be on the court. You have to be on the grounds, and there's no way for you to rest. Like, you've already practiced all year. It's just really horrible.
So we've had a couple people mention in the chat, like, how quickly Collins takes the ball. That's something that Bethany Maddox-Sands was talking about too. That's what helped her do so well. Not only is she hitting the...
She overwhelmed you. Yeah.
So she's forcing you to play at a faster pace. I didn't know who the hell she was before. I didn't before.
No, we've seen her. She was at Indian Wells. She's been at Indian Wells a few times.
Apparently,
like all the other ladies.
They're like, she did this.
She's not a young woman. She's 25.
She went with 3 sets with Petra here, and I'm just like, I don't remember her. But I mean granted,
you know what? No, but she had I actually think she had a nice maybe a couple of wins at Indian Wells, if I'm not mistaken. So she's, I'd seen her before. But it's not as if you're going to look at her game and say, wow, this is a game that stands out, and you're going to be like, this person can take control.
Terrence says she's an aggressive ball basher, a Maria with a serve. Terrence. I mean, can we not be so savage? I mean, like, look, y'all love this violence, don't you?
But you know what? I will say too, and I think it was very helpful. I think you're right, Reels. Her attitude. I think she sees the moment. She was always. You know what? Listen, if you don't listen, I'm expected to lose. But if I'm winning, I'm just gonna keep doing it. Like, that was definitely an air of like, I'm grateful to be here. I should have been here, and so I'm going to go and snatch. That was definitely an expectation.
Maya said she saw Collins take it to Keys.
Yes, at Indian Wells. Yes, that's what it was.
But for me, when she, everybody talk about how she shouted in Angie's face, Angie was across the net.
Yeah,
but I think what she was. I mean, but you know what? That's what I thought was interesting.
I'm fine with it. I'm
fine with it for real.
Oh, she didn't yell at her. Yes, she did. I think she did, and it's fine. It's fine.
I will say she was. I mean, having seen her live, and maybe that's just because people like Pavs, but nobody was feeling that screaming. They weren't appreciating it.
Nobody appreciated it.
Because it was just. No, it's just, what's so funny? Her aggression was, how people talk about how Serena is aggressive, right? And
are we here?
I'm here.
Okay.
Could you say that Serena lost you a bit? People say Serena's aggressive.
I stopped talking because you said hello. But no, so people say Serena is aggressive, and it's so interesting, right? Because I feel like they say Serena aggressive because of all the other things, right? Because of the but if you look at Collins, that chick is aggressive all the time,
like
in your face.
You, like,
yes,
is she friends with Coco?
And I think that's why Angie to me. What was it?
I said, is she friends with Coco?
From the in the match?
She might be. She's definitely somebody from the block, because she was like, "I'm here to take and snatch all your wigs." She really had that vibe.
The Coco is a Derby kind of like, like scrappy fighter. Danielle Collins knows Taekwondo.
Oh, both they're on the same roller. They're on the same roller derby team.
Danielle Collins look like, but I have a third degree black belt, bitch, and I'm going to kick your ass. Because to me, Angie looked like she wanted to jump across the net and choke her, because it was just like Angie was just like, I'm gonna save her life.
But you know what? But you know what though? They fixed it for her though. They fixed it for her, because honestly, they should have let Petra wilt in that heat. Daniel was like, yes. She's like, I can handle the heat. This is gonna be on me right now. I got it. I'm fit. And then they're like, can we close this, because Petra looks like she's gonna fall apart. There you go.
So listen, Danielle Collins had an amazing run.
Someone labeled her skinny Coco. See.
I'm not even. I don't know. Listen, I don't know her politics. Because generally, let me just say, and you know how I am. Generally, I love an aggressive bitch. I love a bitchy bitch. I'm like, people hated that about Jeannie, but I love it because people want these women to be wilting flowers. I don't want to win. Listen, I love it when you come up and you show up being like, I want to win and I want to snatch as many wigs as possible, and I don't care. That is my flavor. That is the 90s flavor of WTA that I want. So I have to take the good with the bad, and Collins is part of the good and bad, so I'll take it.
Take a little bit of both, please.
Yeah, I mean, I mean,
so I might have another.
Okay, that was like my takeaway moment. That was one of my favorite moments, because she's wilting and fading, poor Maria Sharapova, but she's still a classic. She's still a classic in the presser.
So and can we talk about Maria's presser?
I need more women like her. Like, why can't women just speak like that? Someone's asking her about her.
They don't have the money.
What do you want to talk about with her presser, Janita?
I mean, I just want to point out that we had some legit questions that she absolutely refused to answer in her most bitch-like way. She basically, in a nutshell, she's like, she was asked, did you find a new drug, Maria? You were taking this for a long time for some serious health problems. Have you found a replacement? And she just looks, shoots like 11 billion daggers and says, is there another question?
But you know what, honestly?
But she's never answered it. You know what? They should have it.
They should have, exactly. They should have all asked her that. Because you know what? Yeah, and you know what? And the reason why she was able to get away with that, now I was actually talking about her bitchy other comments, but the drug thing aside, the only reason why Maria has been able to get away with that is because all the other journalists have punted that question and made it seem like a silly question. But it's actually a legit question. People should have been on top of her saying, you had a health issue. What is the drug that you have found to replace it? Just like we should be asking Nole about gluten, we should always have been asking this person who had a serious health crisis for a drug that she took 10 plus years. They should have made that a real core part of their pressers.
Absolutely have been.
And they have not. And that's been their shame. It's the journalist's fault for that one.
I remember when
nobody will touch it.
When Federer said, he was giving one of his children a bath and he slipped. I report that legit asked for specific how it happened. Like down to the, like, did you slip sideways? Did you slip this way? And I was just like,
but we can't ask Maria what she's taking for her heart. Her heart, that I want to point out, did not have an abnormal EKG. It was almost abnormal, which means normal. Just let's. But
those are legit. Those were legit questions, and the fact that the next reporter should have asked her the exact same question, and it's not aggressive. but it's a legitimate question that you want to ask an athlete who is also continuing to struggle since, her problems. And so you should ask that question legitimately. Maybe you've not found the right drug for you. And so, but you see, everyone smiles at each other's face and just keeps it moving because they all know it's all BS.
So. What I thought was really this, I was just like tennis people on Twitter say, why are you asking her private medical issues? No, this isn't private medical issues.
It's not private.
One, she brought the issue out to everyone. She told everyone what the deal was, right? She did interviews. She did a documentary. Yeah. She went everywhere and talked about it, whatever the case may be, right? But it's
not private though, because it also crossed the line in her own sport, so it wasn't private.
Exactly.
So it's okay to ask those questions.
I just, before we move on from that, because I had a lot of people attack me on Twitter about this, telling me that I didn't know the rules and Sharapova didn't break the rules until meldonium. Oh, let me finish. Until it was deemed illegal. But I'm here to tell you that I actually did read the rules, and you can go back through our podcast and you can find it. But she did break the rules because was it always illegal? No. However, the rules clearly state that you are to report every single vitamin, supplement, prescription medication that you put in your body at every single doping test, every single one. Doesn't matter if it's prescribed or not. If you are taking anything, you are supposed to put it on there. And had Maria Sharapova done that, you better believe she wouldn't have gotten banned. She wouldn't have. They would have said, you know what? She reported this every single time. She probably did just slip up, so let's give her a slap on the wrist. So for all the people that want to tell me that you don't know the rules, Janina, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
She wasn't using it as a
PD. She read. I mean, listen, and we read all those damn reports. But it's not that we're casting aspersions. But the reality is, if you had a medical condition that was serious enough for you to take a drug for several years, I think it's okay for reporters in the sport to actually continue to ask you about that. It's a legitimate thing, so I don't really understand why that's not private.
Since your results are not backing up your results are not there.
I mean, you don't even have to go there. You don't even have to make that leap.
This is the biggest thing, and Dennis just said it in the chat. Tennis journalists that he's met seem to be very concerned about losing access to the players, and that is exactly why they don't ask.
That's why they do what they do. That's why they do what they do.
They think they're friends.
Okay.
You're not friends.
Okay. Yeah, and so that's also, I mean, can I just also, another takeaway. I really think that the tennis journalists and the way that they covered the final of the women really put a damper on that matchup. First of all, there was a sense that it was up to everybody. Was like, you know what, I'm gonna be happy with either player. Whichever player wins, I'm gonna be happy with.
You're lying.
For one, no, it was a lie. But first of all, they were like, for one, Osaka is playing against somebody who's going to allow her to have her moment if she wins. Whatever. Number two, the other player has come back from so much. I honestly thought that the reporting loaded down the final with so much extra narrative that it actually robbed the final for both players. Because honestly, it was about everything else but the tennis. Because and so when the actual final was over, it felt very flat. Like, Osaka looked like she was upset that poor Petra didn't win.
She always looks.
But that's fine, right? She always does. But there was just so much loadedness on the final that it took the air out of it. Really, it really did. And I was like,
how many times was Serena's name interjected throughout the entire match?
But this is
it was weird. Although I will say, can I just make a quick point? I will say that given her failure to serve out the match in the second set, it does beg the question of whether she would have taken that match in New York if not for the intervention of the umpire. That's all I'm saying.
Don't go there. Don't even do it.
That's all I'm saying.
Let me just piggyback off of that. Let me just add a little more change into your purse. She's been having trouble closing out matches.
Of course.
She's been looking very sketchy.
So that's what's so interesting about the whole thing is that that there is a story to be told for each person. So nobody needed to be a villain, but it does change the character because suddenly, because we know that Serena can come back, right? We know that. We know that. So it does sort of say, wow, that really makes you wonder how that match would have gone if not for an external intervention, similar to the, let's talk about the other match this week.
So hold on. You know. So ergo, let me just finish run out that point. Ergo, when people keep pushing this narrative that Osaka was robbed of her moment at the US Open, the truth of the matter was that Osaka benefited from a theft.
Yes.
She benefited from a crime. Just putting it that way.
I mean, regardless of whatever happened.
You could be mad, but the facts are the facts. Osaka wasn't robbed. She still got the same amount of money that any winner would get for the US Open.
Yeah, but I just think it changes the character because what we noticed in this match was that she had an inability to close out this match. There's no reason for her to have been nervous. I mean, that's what people said. That's what people said, right? People said
up and down in matches.
But that's how every match is, and that's what's wonderful about the WTA because you don't know if somebody's going to close out a match. That's why you have to wait until it's done. So if somebody intervenes and messes with that, you can't just say, "Oh, well, that's a given. She would have done it. She would have done it." We don't know because guess what? This final shows us that we didn't know because she didn't close it out. She succeeded in the third set, but I'm just saying it just opens that up a little bit more for us to say, wow, we really could have seen something interesting in New York without an intervention. That's all I'm saying.
So the other thing that we need to talk about as far as the ladies and, what could have been is Serena.
Yeah, that was sad.
And we need to wrap that into Bethany Maddox-Sands discussing the locker room on camera. Which
I didn't
we all
hear.
know.
Please give me context because I didn't hear.
Basically, she was in the locker room after that match. They were watching it, and Serena came in, and she discussed Serena's behavior. We know that you don't do that.
That's inappropriate. That's inappropriate. But what did she say?
I don't know what she said. Sorry, I don't know. I know what happened. I've heard all about it. What did she say?
I think she said something along the lines about how Serena was despondent or upset, not really angry, but just like
her
despondent about the losing the match to about the situation. I don't know if it's just losing the match or perhaps she.
But what does that mean though? What was this? What did she characterize? Was she crying? What happened? We already knew that Serena was despondent. We could see that from her heading in and crying as she was heading to the locker. What did she say about what happened in the locker room?
Well, she said pretty much that. She just said, along the lines of, like I saw her in the locker room when, she lost, I went in there and, she was in there and, like she
said she overheard Serena talking to Venus and she was upset. That's what she said.
Okay.
She said they were watching. So, and I did see the part where Bethany Maddox-Sands said everybody was in the locker room watching with the volume on, which was unusual. She said that doesn't typically happen. So the match is over.
They have to see a champ lose. When a champ is losing, you got to see how it's going.
Right. So then they saw the match was over. Serena comes in and they put it on mute because here comes Serena. And Tony says then she overheard her talking to Serena and overheard Serena talking to Venus and that she was upset. So that being said, people feel like Bethany Maddox-Sands abused her power by saying what happened in the locker room after the match.
Well, it doesn't sound like she said anything. There's nothing she said that's not apparent to everyone. If she said what she said to Venus, that'd be different. But hearing her say, "Oh, she was upset," well, yeah, that's given.
Chad said she framed it as a touching moment, said Serena was crying and that Venus was consoling her. Tony says that Bethany Maddox-Sands kind of like pumped herself up and look at my access is the way that she
that's egregious though, because you can't use that access to pump yourself up. That's not okay. Although as I'm now know,
to me that was very humanizing, which is a side to Serena, which we've seen. Serena has always been human. It's white people who are confused in the fact of whether she's a human being.
She's human or not. I know.
Right. So she doesn't need to be humanized at all.
Well, she needs to be humanized for. She needs to be humanized for them because they're the ones that
they need to humanize themselves.
But that makes
all
sense.
of that in.
But let's go back to the match
itself. It doesn't
itself.
matter.
Wait.
It doesn't matter how big or how small or whatever. There is an unwritten rule that you don't talk about what happens in the locker room.
True.
You just don't. So Bethany
Especially
Maddox fans, check yourself. Yeah, and you're a current player. So why are you even on TV? Whatever. Check yourself and don't do that again because people don't like that. I know that you think that you're giving them something that they can't otherwise get. There's a reason for that. They're not supposed to get it. Period.
Yeah, so, I don't really need that. I don't really need to know that.
And also, let's also not forget that. I mean, like it was a reporter who think he heard something between Venus and Serena at one point and started off a whole international incident before. So, trying to report something when you see two people talking, and you don't know what's happening. Yeah, you should keep that to yourself. Plus, y'all almost you almost run Nick out of sports for locker room talk.
Yeah, for that same thing. Well, can we talk about the characterization of that loss, though, and why I feel like that?
So, full disclosure, I went to sleep. I watched the first set, and I really wasn't too concerned that Serena dropped the first set. I wasn't 100%. I mean, I wasn't going to sleep thinking, she'll be fine. She'll win. Pliskova has beat Serena on a big stage before. She's not a fucking slouch. She can beat her. And Serena didn't look to be playing that well. That's not a good combo. So it was late. I'm like, I can't wait up for this. And I get up and she lost. And I'm like, yeah, okay, she lost. And then I see that people are just like batshit crazy. And I'm like, okay, what happened? So I start, doing a little digging and I see that she won the second set. I'm like, okay, fine. And then I see that she had match points and was so far up. Was it 5-1 in the third set and ended up losing? When I saw that, I'm like, yeah, okay, what happened? Something happened because Serena doesn't blow a lead like that. 1, 2, nobody comes back on Serena when Serena has a lead like that. I don't know that I've ever seen Pliskova come back from that far down, period. But if somebody was going to make a run like that, it's not going to be her against Serena. And all I'm thinking is, what happened? Something bad happened. Like, it had to be something bad because this just doesn't feel right. I was totally fine with the loss until I started learning about the match. And then... And Tony, I love you. I do. But I had a message from Tony when I woke up who said, I will not be ready to talk about Serena when you get up. Please ask someone else. And I'm like, oh shit, something bad happened. And I'm just like learning about everything. And then first the foot fault. And I thought, did we not learn back in 2009 that you don't call a foot fault on match point? Did we not learn that? Did everyone and their mother, pundits, players, former players, didn't everyone say you just don't do that? But it happened again.
Apparently you do.
It happened again. And my take, having not seen it, is that happened. Serena probably lost focus, which in turn contributed to the ankle incident, and she loses.
I mean, the ankle incident happened the next point. Not like...
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, like, you make stupid mistakes, though, right? When you lose focus and you want to tell me that foot fault call on a match point wasn't a trigger, you're kidding yourself. Of course it was.
Well, but see, this is the interesting question, right? Because if you believe Serena is not human, which is really the point of contention, if you believe she's not human, then she should be able to dismiss that footfall issue, right? Given the fact that she's had some dodgy calls, and she just recently in a final had some weird, intense calls, because everyone always thinks about the quote-unquote victim in the scenario, which is always the other player. But nobody, again, thinks about Serena as a human being. So when things like this happen, she's not supposed to have a reaction. She should just be able to shake it off and move on. That's the assumption, right? But if she's a human being, as Bethany Maddox fans helpfully pointed out to us, then what would a human being have happened to them in that moment? It I was watching it. She became very flustered. Within the next point, she wrong-footed herself and twisted her ankle, and then she proceeded to double fault.
Yeah.
She was not lifting off. And for the next couple games, it was like she really couldn't trust her serve. I think it took maybe a couple games before she was like, okay, well, I'm probably going to have to win this on my returns. And she did have a couple more match points on return. And I refuse to buy, and this is the thing. This is why I find it so strange, because people were very comfortable with the story that Coplis fought back. She didn't. There was no fight back. It was more like, oh my God, this person's not playing well. Do I have a shot? I guess I have a shot. I guess I better take it. Do you know what I mean? That was really it. Coplis looked blitz, and so did some of the fans leaving the tournament. They looked blitz. They're like, what just happened?
Didn't say she was thinking about the locker room?
Of course,
she was getting
the locker room. She was still.
I woke up. Serena was up 5-1. I went back to bed, and then the next thing I know, Andreen called me.
No, because we were talking about it, and because listen, I'm not a conspiracy person. That's not. I think it's kind of crazy. I love to laugh at them, but first and foremost, it was just really odd to call a foot fault, because it seems strange that a foot fault would just happen right then and there. Like, it hasn't been happening historically through the match. Like, and so that's one thing. Like, if it's been happening and you've called it, then the player's kind of aware that they've been foot faulting. And so you know that there's this sense like, I better be careful. But she's up, 40-15, and you're calling a foot fault? It just was very strange. It came out of nowhere. And I know people, and people forget. If I'm not mistaken, didn't the lines people as well as chair umpires suggest that they were never going to or had any interest in working a Serena match as a form of protest? So that's just really strange. And listen, I'm not saying that the person did it on purpose, but it's just really odd. And again, for me, I have a problem with external people interjecting themselves in a match that should be determined by the athletes. And so I really feel, and this is I think a point of improvement that will happen in tennis. At some point in time, it will strike tennis as odd that they are letting lines people and chair umpires have a hand in the outcomes of matches. And I think we're going to move to an electronic system sooner rather than later because of that. I really do. Because it's one of the few areas of the sport that's a little dodgy. You know what I mean? You could just be a bad umpire and impact a match. It's just a weird moment.
Here's how I know she's impacted. Because generally, when a foot fault is called, she asks the line person which foot it is. And she didn't do that. She just like, the fuck is happening? Because she won the match. Because the ball was an ace.
Yeah, of course.
It was an ace. Pliskova was getting ready to walk up. And to me, I mean,
just know that this would never happen to Novak, Roger, Rafa. It would never ever happen to
even to Danielle Collins.
It's not happening to Kerber.
But then the other thing that's really weird. First of all, there was a research study that was put out by a scientist, a sociologist, I believe, who talked about, and it was published by ESPN just before the start, that there are lots of problems on court, and the only person that always gets called out for the exact same thing that everyone does is Serena. So you guys can read that paper and take with it what you will.
So but I think the other thing, saying this is the science.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting. Like they observed all the matches at the U.S. Open, clocked all the problems and all of the egregious rule breaking, and the only ones that were called for it anytime it happened was Serena. So it's not to say that other people weren't doing it too. It's just who is disproportionately to. But the thing I thought was really noteworthy is also the journalists. Now these are journalists.
Well,
you would 5-1.
Hold on, you're breaking up, Andreen. You're breaking up, Andreen.
Were interested in the but not like.
Can anyone hear her?
I don't. Hold up, Andreen. Hold up, Andreen. Hold up. You're Daft Punkin' right now.
Sorry, I'll pause, but you could go on.
Oh no, I mean
you're just Daft Punking it.
I think you'd be much better now. See something.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it was a moment for journalists to ask questions, but they weren't interested in asking about what happened in that moment and why that, and then also to even say, was it a right call? No one asked those questions. I think once they could be footage, none of those, which is like an attempt to at least establish fact, they didn't want. The most important thing I noticed from a lot of the journalists, and particularly Reem and some of the women who cover the tour, was they wanted Serena to give Pliskova the moment. That was the most important thing for them, was not to establish whether that call was even right. It was to establish that Pliskova had fought back. And that and Serena is the one that actually stopped the entire conversation by saying, oh, Pliskova played out of her mind. She actually aided the journalists in getting the narrative they wanted, which was, we just want you to tell us that Klopp deserved that win. We don't care how it happened. But we just wanted you to tell us that it happened in that way. And that was weird.
These people are just the worst. Because here's the thing. Even without the foot fault, right? Even without the football call, let's just say,
yeah,
and that didn't happen, right? Serena served, let's say, a double, something happened, right? Like a bird came onto the court and they had to call a let. And she lost that game. And then she twisted her ankle the next point. That would have been the story, right? That she was leading, she had match point, something happened on the court, and she twisted her ankle and proceeded to lose the match. That would have been the story. But that wasn't the story. The story was Pliskova beat Serena. And I was just like,
in a fight back. In a fight back.
And I mean, seriously. Seriously. And then in the same breath,
Conchita Martinez has never been generous. But after Serena said that quote, Conchita Martinez retweeted the quote and said, what a champion Serena was. I was like, bitch, now I know why you call her a champion. She called her a champion because she gave your player credit, which was what you always wanted all along.
And this is how I know that call was fucked up. This is how I know the call is deliberate.
That was ridiculous.
That tennis didn't talk about the call.
No, I know. That was interesting. That was really interesting.
They didn't talk about it because all of Serena incidents has always been about the call, right? And they always bring out the real book, right? And they always say she's wrong, right? But they couldn't do that.
It was funny. They couldn't because it wasn't clear the call. It wasn't clear the call was wrong.
And this is the thing. We know if it's something you know about tennis journalists, they're not always willing to say the thing and do that, be journalists, right? But they always have a story. They always have a story in their head, right? And they knew that was a setup. They knew
it was bad. Because bad.
No one, because they didn't even address the facts, the plain facts of the matter. They didn't even address that, right? I have a tennis template and usually it gives me the news in French, but somehow this Australian Open it turned into English. And then they didn't attribute it to any writer, but it said Pliskova trounced Serena. Did she? I mean, Serena was up 5-1. So I mean, if anybody was getting their ass beat, was Pliskova.
Well, I just think it's interesting
when a player is up 5-1, because when a player is up 5-1, right? The story is, and then the other player loses. That player who's up 5-1 loses such a huge lead. The story isn't generally that the comeback of the other player. The story is often the collapse of the player who was leading, right? That's part of the narrative, right? It is very much a part of the narrative.
But they couldn't deal. But they couldn't deal with the collapse because they'd have to talk about the fact that the call was sort of weird, and they'd have to talk about the twisted ankle, and it didn't help. So instead of actually dealing with the facts of those are actually facts, right? The question is, there was a call. You could establish whether the call was true or not, but nobody wanted to establish that. There was actually an ankle twist. You can talk about whether it was impacting her serve. It was just funny to watch it all play out.
I think sometimes the people need to, like, when the trainer come out, trainers do not have magic. Just some tape and a spray.
But they do have magic. They do have magic.
But I think it's also interesting that Patrick told us what why Serena didn't call the trainer. And nobody's a fan of Patrick, but I do believe that Patrick spilled the information right there, which is that that in that moment it was going to be weird, because if she called the trainer, she was going to have to call the trainer just before Pliskova served, right? That was going to be have to be the thing, and people are going to be like, she's going to try to disrupt her. She just lost her serve, and now she's calling the trainer.
Then the trainer would have been called then in the middle of the game.
But that's the question. It's like, the question is like, I feel like it was one of those situations where I think it would have been damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of scenario. I really do. And so I think what happened was the narrative that the sports world was most comfortable with, which is that Koplis trounces Serena after Serena had a lead of 5-1, which I don't know who. I don't know. It's a much better story for Koplis, who was sort of still stunned. I mean, I think in the presser they asked Koplis if she played lights out tennis like Serena said she did, and then she said, "Well, I can't disagree with Serena." I was like, "I bet you could though, because you didn't know what the hell happened." She looked as stunned as everyone by the outcome of the match, which she was participating in.
Well,
it was weird, but I mean, listen, I think the good news about that is that's another tick for electronic and somewhat more objective.
I don't know.
I think so. And I don't think it has anything to do necessarily with Serena, but I think also the PCB call. I think over time it will become apparent that I think tennis integrity units should also be always concerned about what goes on with chair umpires.
I need to be the board president of the fucking tennis integrity department.
Those things should. That's actually to my mind, of all the things that tennis is concerned about, that is a loophole. That's a hope. That's an opening.
Yeah, because anytime
there are people, you can't review it, and so that to me. If you're a tennis integrity person that worries about things happening in your sport, that's a giant loophole.
Because you know what? It's not hard. Put a fucking camera on the baseline.
Figure out how to get that, and then I think they should have foot fault challenges. And all the other, you know what I mean? You should be able to review any call that's being made by an umpire as much as possible. Much as possible, because first of all, you always want to eliminate human error. And then you also always want to eliminate the possibility of something dubious happening.
And then also the players get a peace of mind, right? That like, okay, it was reviewed. They might not always agree with the call, but I mean, like, here is something they think is objective, that reviewed it, and they can let that go, right? They can move on. They're not like Roger Federer, who's still gonna be fighting with Hawkeye after the fact. Can you turn it off, please? I don't want it. Take it off. Okay? And everyone is like Roger. Roger can deal with human error. We can, okay? We can.
Because human error is probably going to take him into consideration and make it not an error. But for some who are more liable to have human error always happening, I think it's going to become very important.
Yeah, because and here's the thing. I mean, like, we can go back to 2005 or 2004 when Mariana Alves made the most ridiculous set of calls. And
yet she's still a celebrity. People love her. They love her still.
And of course, there's some.
Which I think is hilarious.
There's not a lot of points, right? She didn't steal a whole game like Carlos Ramos, right? There were just several points. But here is the issue: you have turned the entire tenure of the match, right? I am a player, and I don't feel like the umpires are objective.
On my side,
and I'm not even that they're necessarily on my side or not. They're not objective. And they're actually aggressors towards me, right? They're making me feel like, and I mean,
it's gonna happen
because
it's gonna happen.
Here's the thing: players have to trust the lines people because they can't see everything.
Nobody
right?
Trust them motherfuckers.
I mean, they feel the ball is in because there's Roger Federer. Right? You're just like, oh, that was in, definitely in, challenge, and it's like well out, right? And they have to trust the system. And if you have a system, particularly when it's not uneven for everybody, it's just uneven for one person
or a few. It's dodgy.
Listen, Andreen has a brunch date. We have to move on.
Okay,
we can move on. No, it's fine. We can move on. But I'm just saying, we can move on, but I think that for me is what was revealed in that moment. Less about Serena, but more just another loophole in tennis that needs to be closed. And I
these
think it
people are not
eventually
paid a
will
lot of
close.
money,
And it's
right?
easily closed. It really is easily closed,
And
guys.
these
It's not
players are
hard.
not these lines people are not paid a lot of money. And every year they see players, the same players that they may think are just disgruntled, rich, yuppie little kids, make more and more money and
Well, I
disrespect
don't
them
know. I
and
mean, I
mistreat
don't
them.
want to. I don't know anything about the lines people, but I'm just saying that's a loophole that can be closed. And I'm sorry that they might lose their jobs as a result of it. But technology is eliminating lots of jobs.
Mhm. Yep. And we're not trying to hold on to those jobs just for those people's
Well,
sake,
and
are
just
we?
because something becomes reviewable doesn't mean that we don't have line judges.
Because cricket
I
have
mean,
reviewable
we're
plays and they still have people on the
Every
field.
sport does.
well. Listen, honey, we don't have line judges at Next Gen, so I'm just saying. So, we already know the future. We've already seen the future. They don't. They
You
don't
are right.
exist.
And
They
for
don't
you know
those,
what?
exist
I'm
and for
there.
fine with
those who
that.
are fighting tooth and nail, things change all the time. All the
I
time.
mean, it's sad, but
And
it's. I don't even know if it's an evolution. It is what it is. I mean, what I would do is I would reposition myself for a different type of job in the
yep.
tennis. Maybe you need people who are going to be reviewing videos. Maybe you need people who, you know what I mean, who are going to review videos behind the scenes and send information to the chair umpire in an
Mhm.
accurate fashion. They don't have to be there. You know what I mean? There are lots of
Right.
different ways
And also
to
because
move
a lot of
forward.
the coaches don't have Hawkeye. So hey, the job for you.
Exactly. Anyway,
And then
so yeah,
moving
we can
on.
move.
So I know someone wanted to mention about the Vika incident. Well, we've summed this up last year, right? I think I said it quite
What's the
succinctly.
Vika incident? What's the
Don't
Vika
put temporary
incident?
poles in permanent holes and vice versa. But I mean, Vika had a breakdown at the Australian Open, talking about, and it is
Oh, inside the presser. Inside the
inside the
presser.
presser, which is, I don't know why she continues to be vulnerable in front of these vultures because they don't like her. She should tell us
They
her
do.
story
They
to
love
us.
her now. They love her now.
Not that she's been beaten
I
and weak.
mean, I think it's sad, but it is what it is. I mean, not everyone is going to have the same reaction bouncing back from pregnancy, right? Like it's a tremendous physical exertion on the body, and then she also has the emotional toll of trying to fight for her
Alison
for
Felix said
custody
the
of
same thing too, right?
of her
Right.
child. It's like it's a different ball of wax. I mean, I think she's fortunate she's still playing out there.
I don't think she
But
doesn't have the support that other people may have. That might be part of
I
the
mean,
issue.
I feel sad about it, but I can't be. I don't think it's any more unusual than anything that happens to women who are struggling in custody battles everywhere in the world. And I think Vika is fortunate because I think she has the money to actually engage in the struggle, and she has a support system.
And she
In
still
some
has
ways,
her child.
yeah, and she has a job, and she's more fortunate than most. But I also think her game has regressed. Separate from that, I mean, I know there's a lot of emotional baggage and all that stuff, but I do you all have a sense that Vika's game has improved?
Well, she
I
hasn't
think
had
at the
time to
moment.
play.
Well, yes and no.
I mean,
like,
that's all she has been doing in practice,
Right.
at least.
Exactly. But to me, I mean, the game, I mean, it's not there, but you can see the ghost of Christmas past, right? You could see
There are
her
moments,
trying to
yeah.
be where she's trying to do all of these things. But I think part of the frustration is that she left when she went on maternity leave. She left at the top, right? She had dragged Serena, you know what I mean? Like she had won the Sunshine Double, and she looked like she was gonna get back to where she should be because where she was, the Achilles tendon had always been Serena, right? Serena had always been getting in her path. And now she had like a mental block, right? Where not only she beat Serena when Serena was on, and she can move, like she felt like this was a better quality win. And then she left at that moment, right? Unexpectedly, like, and boom, and then this happened. But I think she needs to set small goals for herself, really, and build her way back up, as opposed to expecting to ramp
I
up.
think she is doing that, but we probably need to ask ourselves if maybe the game and some elements of the game has moved on beyond her. Like, first of all, she
yes,
seems
everybody's
a little bit.
aggressive and they just have a better serve. The serve is more problematic.
Yeah,
Now.
and she seems like she's a little bit weaker. She had lost some weight, and that took a little bit of her strength. And if you don't remember, I mean, I know that people think that people only remember the last thing that happens, but so Vika also struggled with injuries. Remember, she had that foot issue for a while. So even though it had been smooth sailing, it seemed in that double, in the the Sunshine double, it didn't necessarily mean that she was going to be smooth sailing from that on. Because I've never experienced Vika as smooth sailing. She's always, it seemed, in the last couple of years, had struggled with injuries besides having to take a break for pregnancy. So I don't know. I'm not necessarily
So
of
you're
the
saying
mindset.
a lot of things.
Fucking Mets right now.
Well,
There's a lot that's going on, and I don't necessarily
yes.
think it has to do. It's
One
not
thing.
all. Yeah, it's not all with the baby and the drama around that. I think that her
It's
game
just
has
that it's
regressed
all happening at the same time.
at the same time. So it seems like it's all that, but I think her
And
game
they-
has regressed a little bit. I
and
think
they're
her
gonna
serve has
deal
been
with it, right.
problematic. The best thing Vika had going for her was her movement, right? You know, she could compensate for a piss poor second serve with that movement, and you could always dial in on that return. That's not been happening. So I think there's a lot that's changed about her game. Am I not seeing it clearly? Does anybody else see other things?
No, I think you're
Vika's?
absolutely right. I mean, you are right, because I mean, like, I've seen her played a number of times, and you know, and even in particular 2012, when she was like, you know, contending for majors, right? She was getting to the latter stages of these tournaments. That, you know, she moved well. Like, she was like, you know, she was dementia, but much, you know, like, she was much more sound, clear in mind, know what she wanted.
She anticipated well. Yeah.
She anticipated well, you know what I mean? And, you know, she didn't care. Like, she was like Danielle Collins, right? I don't give a fuck, bitch. I'm going to snatch it, right?
Yeah.
Except when it was Serena, right? because Serena was all over her, right? Serena was smothering her like butter. But I do think, you know, like, and let's be fair, people, like, time change, right? Her body is older, you know what I mean? And the issues, you know, like, so I don't want to speculate and say it's one thing, but from the outside, as you said, Andreen, it's a lot of things, and there's a lot of things to deal with at the same time, and you don't know which problem to tackle, because as soon as you tackle one problem at a time, the other problems still continue to persist. So,
listen, Terrence has her going to counseling and getting a new coach.
Probably.
Right,
but what about the finals?
Let's talk about the final. The final, we're not talking about the women still, are we?
The women's final is great. The women's final is great.
Did we talk about it?
No, we didn't talk about the final.
We just talked about how it's being framed.
We talked about just the framing of it.
Okay,
but what did you guys think of the actual final of it?
I thought it was a great match. It had lots of swings and twists and turns. You really didn't know who was going to win. Although, if you've been around long enough, you know, never get on a bus with Petra. Some of us did, and it crashed again. But that was okay. Like, I mean, it was fun. It was a good match. I didn't want Osaka to win for very selfish reasons. I'm happy to share them with you. I was far better prepared and ready for the Vika almost lost her serving hand story than Osaka backed up her maiden Grand Slam win that she got over Serena and blah, 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 blah. I was way more ready for the Petra story. I don't want to hear this Osaka shit. And I kept thinking, why don't I want to hear it? And Andreen, I keep coming back to what you said, and I'm not really sure if you shared this publicly or not. So forgive me if you didn't.
That's okay.
But you told us.
a real quick and tell her, ask if she said it.
Well, I mean, no, it's okay. I'm sure that it's okay, or I wouldn't.
I'm fine.
But you did say that because of what a mess the U.S. Open was, it's really hard to see Osaka.
It's a trigger.
Untainted. Yeah, she's a trigger. And like, I don't want to celebrate her. Like, I am happy for, you know, Jasmine said, oh, I love it when the brown people win. And I'm like, you know what? I do too, but I didn't want this one to win, damn it. And I'm like, why am I being like that? But it's true. Like, I'm not here for that.
You know what's so funny about that? You know what's so funny about you say that?
And before you go, I was and Chad kept reminding me, no, it's how people talk about Osaka. That is the issue.
I'm sure it is.
I mean, that's part of it too. I mean, but then, you know, even before she won a major, I had, I wasn't really a big fan.
You haven't been for. You know what it is though. Honest to goodness, I mean, I was having a Sophie's choice. I'll be honest. I didn't care about either of them. So, I was like, I don't want either of you to win. So I don't really care. So
but it really was a good match. Like it genuinely
was. You know what? It was. But you know what though? It was a match. It was. Listen, the WTA had a fantastic tournament. They really did. It was topsy turvy. They had no. I mean, and they had a newbie and an oldie in the final, which is. I mean, the ATP could only wish for that.
They could only.
They could only wish for that.
David Law. It was classy. It was, wonderful.
And two well-liked players. They were very well liked. But I mean, I agree.
There's no fuss. There is no must.
Can I tell you though? Can I tell you the real reveal though? Let me just say, there's no way for Osaka to have her moment because she is incapable of having her moment.
Oh,
and so. That is a thing. That is a thing for her to deal with. She is comfortable in the background, clearly. So no one is ever going to give her that if she's in the final. The only gift that you could give her is by having her not be in the final for herself, it seems to me. So there's nobody, because you know what people would say, you would have thought that this was her moment. But guess what? She also didn't have her moment as well because she's incapable of taking it. That's just the way it is right now. I believe she will grow and get comfortable being the top of the game, being the number one player. I mean, I kind of feel sad that she is the number one player because I love a number one player with attitude. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want that person to be like, yeah, bitches, I'm number one. Come at me. But this is not going to be that number one.
We feel similarly about Simona Halep.
I mean, it's okay, but I'm just saying that these I just noticed that these two finals had the same people in them and they had two completely different outcomes and the reaction was similar. And it's not to say there's anything wrong. I just think that her lack of affect means that she's never going to have that moment that these people keep telling us that she needs to have. Like Serena stole it in New York. But guess what? Nobody stole it here, and she didn't have it. So it's okay. That's just.
She was ready to cry.
That's just the way it is. You know what I mean? And it's okay, but that's just the way it is. There's no moment for her to have. She'll always look like she's a deer in headlights at this moment, right? And that is what it is. And people can have all sorts of feelings about it. Lots of people have lots of positive feelings because it's very affirming in some way. I have extremely negative feelings because I really like articulate people of color. That's just my preference. So that's just my little thing. So that's just how it is. I like someone to get up there and look like they were happy to be there and look like they had a good time and be happy to have won. There's no reason for anyone to be sad about winning a match. Like, I was like, why is everybody looking like it was a funeral up there?
Even you're petty. Even say I'm a Osaka fan. I like her, but until Serena exits stage left, I won't fully commit.
That seems to be the sentiment of most people. It does, I mean,
it's true. It's true. It is what it is. We're a fan podcast. That's what this is about. Fandom is irrational as fuck, and I gotta say, we are being irrational.
Nope. Hold up.
We're not dealing with John Wertheim in his DMs sliding into everybody's DMs.
Hold up.
John,
come on the show and we'll talk.
Wait. How come you all are getting DM slides?
Hold up.
I don't get DM slides.
I would address that in a minute, but I refute the fact that I'm irrational. One of the reasons why I can't get on the Osaka bus is because I don't like the company on that bus. They're just there to be anti-Serena.
I know.
Listen,
a lot of Osaka fans are on that bus to be anti-black.
Well, of course.
Something.
But wait, they can't be anti-black because she's black. It's going to become apparent at some point. What? Listen, let me tell you the
tea. Let me tell them she's black.
Let me tell you the real thing. As soon as Osaka starts to put together full sentences, it's going to be revealed that she's black. It's just how it is. That's just how it is.
Don't fool them. See. You're gonna learn.
I will get on the Osaka bus if I get to sit next to Shasha because I know it's fun.
No. Listen, you know what it is? You know what? You know the other thing is, listen, I love a teenage phenom. I do, because that's what we were reared with. We were reared on that. Teenage phenoms are the shit. But you know what's also great about teenage phenoms? They think they are the best thing since sliced bread, and they always let you know it. We don't have that with this phenom, and she's not a teenager. What? She's 21.
Yeah,
We just don't have that. It's like, you know what? No, the teenage phenom usually is out there like, yes, bitch, I won. Come at me. This one's like, I'm so sorry, I've won. I don't know. I'm so uncomfortable here. And it's okay. She has a right to be that way, but we as fans also have a right to be like, next. So that's how I am right now.
We didn't pay our money for a funeral. Funerals are free. Okay? We came for a party. and if you're charging us drinks, I need something.
Yeah, there was no party there. There was no party there. Like, you won your second slam. I think she looked like she wanted to give it to Petra. I was like, well, just give a damn thing to Petra.
Yeah,
give it to her. Let her do the speed.
No, Petra
we'll share.
Petra,
I love it. Actually, that would have been a really cute moment if she had just done that. You know what, Petra? I'm so sorry that you didn't win. You totally deserved it, because I know all the reporters said you did. So here it is. And then we could have all had this like weird ass moment, and then it would have.
And Osaka, you would have been the queen still. It would have been like, oh my God, Osaka is the queen. Look at what she did. Osaka,
you know what I mean? It would have just been a more genuine moment. I'm over these like weird, false, modest people. Come on, just be in it.
But here is a storyline that they forgot to mention. Yes, even it was the saddest victory ceremony ever. I mean, it was really bad. I mean, it would have been the highlight. It would have been the story about victory ceremony had Divadal not got up on the victory ceremony and it became an injury fest.
Well, wait, we're a different one. But let's finish out the ladies. So the ladies were fine.
I have to say, I have to beg pardon to Petra, because you know I had said in the beginning in our preview podcast, Petra don't do well for two tournaments in a row. She's just down, and it was going to be hot as balls. But what I want someone to investigate the conspiracy theorists. I need y'all to go check out who Petra know in the scheduling box, because
how she get Greg to close the roof and nobody said anything about it. That's weird. I didn't get a whole essay on roof closure. I didn't get anybody. I didn't get any roof gates. I mean, so does the roof only impact players that people don't like, or what? Like, what is that? How does that work? Okay, all right. I was concerned about that.
I'm telling you, people keep talking about the fact that I know people talk about Flavia Pennetta won the US Open because Vinci beat Serena. No, Flavia won the US Open because the heat got to Petra. That's what happened.
Stop it.
Had that been a night session, Flavia would have not been.
That was great though, but I loved it. I watched that heat and I loved every bit of that match. Ooh, there was so much wilting. I loved it. And that, you know, if somebody had any reason to complain, Danielle Collins needed to petition Greg Tilley like Chilich. Chilich, he should have pulled the Chilich.
Y'all know that
I don't know what happened here.
Here's the thing about that final that really showed two different things, right? One, I think Osaka is conniving and devious. No, stop. Let me finish. On the sly, if you go back and watch that match, she was giving Petra the side eye, and I love it. I love that. But here's the real truth. Here's the real thing. Osaka, when shit get really dodgy, she can dial in and call upon her technique and know exactly what she needs to do on court. Petra can't do that. Had Petra been one of those players, Petra is always like, I'm feeling good today. I'm feeling like I'm hitting the ball today. Or it's Venus Williams, so I can play. But when it comes to the real shit, if Petra's not feeling it, because Petra had the capability of pulling that match together and make it somewhat epic in the third set.
Oh, it was a lot of errors, though.
Yeah, the third set kind of like it's the same thing like with Sabalenka and Osaka, right? You just got the feeling when Osaka was
it was an error.
Yeah, I'm ready for this match now, and boom, it's over, and it's kind of like died off. So
well, I think because her opponent gave her nothing. You know, when she was fully dialed in that first set, it was really problematic. You didn't know who was going to win. But by the second and third set, I really felt like Petra had sort of I don't know, ran out of ideas. And everybody's like, oh, she's going to be fighting back. I was like, I've never really thought of Petra as
was
a
waiting
fighter.
for Osaka to collapse.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know there's this like narrative of Petra as a fighter on court, but I just find that usually what happens is she has an arrow-strewn moment and goes down, and then she tightens up her game, and then it gets better. Like, I don't think of her as like, oh, Petra's going to be doing the fight back.
And she out hits the opponent.
Yeah, like it was a strange characterization, but yeah, I mean, it was definitely should have been done in 2. It was definitely Osaka that lost that second set. I didn't really get the sense that Petra won that second set. You know what I mean? It just didn't feel that way, but you know, at least it kept it topsy-turvy and interesting enough on that level.
Yeah.
So the women's side was great. The women's were great. Venus, sorry, didn't work out for you this time around. Maybe a Cinderella run is in the cards for you somewhere else.
You know what, sorry, Venus, you sent your sister to beat her down, and that was good. That's how we do it out here, Venus. If we can't get her, we send our little sister because you know she's ready for the number 1 player.
Well, and also congratulations for Ashley Barty. I mean, that was great. That was a nice run. I mean, she doesn't struggle. I mean, Sam Stosur is doing it in the doubles court. I know that's a problem for people.
Ooh.
So
doubles,
you know,
doubles was fun, okay? Except mixed doubles, Rajiv Ram won. You could play mixed doubles now, Rajiv, right? You could play it now, but not in Rio, right? We can play it in Melbourne. Get the fuck out of here.
But you know what? Apparently, the way it is those that can't do doubles. So that's what it is. So congrats to Sam Stosur for that.
Taking quotes from the cokehead. Who's doing that? Like,
I mean, listen. As long as you're a British player, everything that you say will be quoted because all British journalists have to quote somebody.
This is why Murray got to say shit. This is why Murray feels like he's been disrespected.
Because you
moved from Murray for getting all the quotes in the world, and then you go to Dan Evans.
But it's the nature of the beast. Not every random Joe Schmo is getting quoted in the American tennis. We have too many good tennis players. But the Brits, they got a few. So every single one of them are going to be quoted. I mean, how many times we got to get quotes from Liam Brody, for God's sakes?
Go back to Bedeni. I'm just saying. Like, who does that?
It's a problem when you have too many journalists. You have more journalists than top British players. Let's just be honest.
I mean, seriously, y'all couldn't wake Marcus Willis out of a drunken stupor and ask him about something.
Listen, let it be.
I mean that is just irresponsible journalism. Just don't
let people. Wait, you're going off with the assumption that people know. So just say, why are you going off, and then we can move on. Dan Evans was quoted as saying what?
Oh, Dan Evans was quoted as saying that because Murray was like. That is Murray, older one. What's his name? Jamie. Jamie was saying that that he feels that I guess the long-standing issue with the Murrays, right? They feel like non-tennis association in England isn't doing their job, and he felt that that they should give most support to the doubles because they have been doing pretty well. They're in the top. They have like 2 solid teams, and like they can field 2 solid teams. Mind you,
sure.
Jamie isn't playing with a British player, right? But okay, that's another question. He's playing with a Brazilian. But and then Dan was just like, excuse me, boo. Nobody's checking for the doubles. Nobody. It's not. No one. Young people not dreaming about winning doubles. They're dreaming about winning singles. But
I know that's upsetting to people, but I think there's a lot of information in there. Whether it's like when someone says something racist, I know it's upsetting, but then there's also so much information there, right? I think there's a lot of information in there because what it tells you is that on a certain level, people think of doubles as I said, those that can't teach. Maybe there is a bias against doubles players, and maybe he's the only one that's saying it, but it's clearly truthful on some level because doubles players don't actually get paid that much. So maybe that's actually a real reflection about how people actually really think about doubles, it's a default for people who can't hack it on the singles tour. And then you hear Jack Sock confirm the same thing. Like Jack Sock, he's a great doubles player, but he would slit his wrist, he said, if he was only confined to playing doubles. So that tells you a lot about the mentality younger players maybe have about doubles. And so people should probably explore that.
Well, here's the thing too. I mean, to me, it seems that on the men's side, I'm not sure on the women's side because we don't see women matches. The doubles, and it also might be because I have a gay bias, but we're not gonna talk about that bit. But the men seem to have a longer relationship, right? The partnerships tend to last longer, and there are a lot of solid doubles team on the men's side, right? That they mostly play doubles all the time. And it's also a way, I mean, there's great benefit for it. I agree to a certain extent that the doubles men should advocate for more money. They really should. And that they should ask for more exposure. But still, it can't be. Dan Evans might have a point, but he can't be the messenger. It just can't.
But it's fine. But I'm just saying he told you a message. You can't get upset. The message is probably, it's probably a truthful message.
Who do we go?
Do you know what? Then have people talk more prominently, but then have people talk more prominently about doubles. If you have somebody like Jack Sock who's actually great at doubles, slamming the fact that he wouldn't even want to be known just as a doubles player, there's a real problem there. So it's not that just Dan Evans having a bias. There might actually be a bias against doubles players, period. Because remember, in people's mind, they think of tennis as a solo sport.
Yes, I mean, I would say two things that I observed. One, that there are a fair amount of doubles players who are not necessarily fit. Some time ago, a couple of years ago, probably last year, Henry Kontanen from Finland, he was cute. He could get it. No, he got moves. I saw him in the final. He has moves.
Listen, listen. I remember.
He won Junior Wimbledon.
Yeah, I remember.
He won Junior Wimbledon, and there was potential for him, and then he's now playing doubles only.
So that's what I'm saying is like you can't get upset with people when they're revealing the attitudes that folks have about doubles. You have to undercut those attitudes and talk about them, but they're telling you some truthful things. And if I'm not mistaken, I remember Rafa had to withdraw from a singles match when he played doubles. And somebody was like, "How are you able to do that?" He's like, "It's just different."
That is true because I mean,
the demands are just really different. So we have to just be honest about it. Come on.
I do think that they need to market themselves more and market themselves better.
I mean, Rafa admitted it without saying it, and I'm just saying. Dan Evans might be saying things, but.
I am not body shaming
I love doubles
Tony,
too,
but I'm just saying that we're talking about athletes, okay? I mean, Ryan Harrison, I was watching that and I was just like, that's a C cup. That's definitely a C cup. There's no way around that. That is a C cup.
I don't know what's going on.
And then Janina I was just like, I can't say that because, that gonna sound mean. And then Janina said the exact same thing on Twitter I was thinking. She was like, it's jiggling. It's jiggling when he's running.
And listen, this is the thing. I tell you this we all talk about the fact that tennis has an inferiority complex. It just does. That's why they love to celebrate Novak and Rafa so much, because they really don't feel like their sport is manly. And so if you have people believing that doubles is operating at a lower tier physically, it's going to be problematic. And maybe it's also saying something to Jack. Because if Jack Sock feels like he could do better in doubles and he can't hack it in singles, that's also revealing to him. And maybe he hasn't made peace with that. He's like, I know I'm not fit. How am I doing so well in doubles?
No, I'm not singles fit, but I'm doubles fit.
You know what I mean? These are horrible.
And before anybody out here, not in our chat here, but before the wider world talk about reels is body shaming and talking about moves, y'all were writing think pieces on Simona Halep's breast, and I could talk about Ryan Harrison's breast as long as I want to. If y'all could try to drag Simona to have that conversation, Simona had to put a stop to that bullshit. We can talk about.
Well, no, it has nothing to do with body shaming. It's just like, listen, there's a reality here, and these people are also letting you know that they feel like doubles is a different demand. But you know what? I think it's stupid. I think all of it is stupid because you could still make the same. That's the arguments people make against women's sports, right? But I just think each sport demands different things, and so yes, you're not going to be grinding out on the court and covering the court as you would as a singles player, because that's not the point of doubles. Hello, it's not. So it calls for different things. It's okay for you to respect that and honor that, but it is revealing a lot about the mentality of players about doubles, and so it might also reveal why they don't get as much support as they should.
I think
amongst their leadership, because maybe that's actually an accurate reflection about how other people feel. So you guys should probably check that.
I'm just saying, doubles, ATP doubles, men and ladies too. I have no problem working WTA. I could help zhuzh up that industry.
Whatever.
Trust
All right,
me,
we can move on. Sorry.
Especially if I can talk to Pit you all the time. You know, he and I.
Okay, we're not here. We're not here to set you up on dates. Okay, so let's move on to the men's final. As Janina started the podcast,
I had this podcast.
Janina, I know
one goal in mind. To meet some hot names.
Meeting a doubles player? Okay, that's fine. So Janina started Janina, why did you start the podcast with Rafa's speech?
You're evil, bitch. I can hear it.
Listen, you guys.
Tony is your friend, Janina. Tony is your friend.
Not today. That speech was riddled with
a lot.
So much. So much injury. So much injury.
Extremely injured.
Very injured. So injured, no? So injured.
I'm wondering about why it's not today, you know. Okay.
So people are talking about Rafa's speech. I mean, this is another example of how the Reels Tennis Fan podcast, we're obviously off the rails. Because I don't think it's a speech that anyone should be proud of. I really don't. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, that I was sitting next to somebody watching this speech, and she turned to me and she said, "That is a poor speech." And I said, "Why is that a poor speech?" She said, "That speech says, I would beat you if I wasn't injured." That's what that speech what that speech said.
It said, you know, like, I got beat because I was injured, right?
Because I was injured. I mean, and listen, I get it. I get that. But first of all, that speech was really long. I seriously thought Rafa was going to retire. And I was like, oh, shit. Is Rafa retiring? It kept going. And then second, it was really a litany of Rafa's injuries. We know it. We really have known it. But let me just say, you cannot give a speech like that after having demolished the draw like you did. You cannot do that. That is not a speech.
It cannot be
you. That can't be the speech you give. And that is also not a gracious speech that you give after getting your ass beat. I'm just saying, the best way for you to evaluate that speech is listen to that speech, but you know how like there's that movie A Time to Kill, and they have the juror close their eyes and they walk you through what was going on with that poor little girl as she got attacked, right? And then Matthew McConaughey nails it at the end and he says, think about everything that happened and then pretend she was white. And the juror is like horrified. I want you to close your eyes and I want you to hear that speech, but I want you to hear Federer giving that speech.
Oh.
I mean, do that, and then you'll know that was an inappropriate speech to give, and it is not a speech that you should be telling juniors to do. But I will say that Nole had a very good response to the speech because he got up and said, "Guess what? I too was injured." Honest to goodness, left to their own devices, Rafael is classless as shit.
Oh my God! Let me tell you something. So ever so often, I get these psychic moments, and I was in Nole's head. And at that moment, I tweeted out, "Here comes the list of injuries. Here it comes." And sure enough, it came. Some people came for me, but I quickly snatched their wigs, like how Nole snatched. I was Nole on Twitter this afternoon. This morning, I was just like, nope, you won't be having it. And Nole was just like, did this bitch really do this? This motherfucker is going to go up there after I demolished his ass. Let me tell y'all something. That match, look, I have seen a lot of, what do you call it, Andreen? The combination?
Rafael.
Rafovic, whatever. The Divadal
Rafa,
Joker
honey.
matches. And let me tell you something. I saw 2011, okay, including that 20-minute game. Okay, this was a statement. There was no roof. There was no day change a day. Rafa was praying for all of those things today. But I'm telling you, that was a beat down. And for Rafa to get up there and stand up and say some shit like I was injured and all, that was just disgusting. It was classless. It was tacky. It was so. I mean, I can't even think of anybody else who would do some shit like that. But Rafa, it was just like this is so him, right? This is so the exact same thing he would do all the time. And I mean, like, and y'all know I'm not a Djokovic fan, right? I'm not. But you know what? He didn't deserve this. He didn't deserve this because he beat Rafa's ass proper, square on the nose. He beat him. I mean, I think Djokovic lost what 10 points on serve.
9.
11? 9. We were in the third set and he had 4 unforced errors. 4.
No, listen though. You know what? Rafa had a right to be upset.
Errors in one game.
Wait, Rafa had a right to be upset. He saw Nole all week. What the hell is Nole doing losing sets to Medvedev, looking like he was wilting under the heat? That's not the same Nole he got in the final.
You know what? Look, I would say, I know people like to compare, maybe this is how Fed fans feel. Actually, no. Because in the beginning of the Fed versus Divadal, Federer looked like he has a chance. He looked like he know what he's doing. But this time around, from the jump,
I'm not gonna let you all get confused.
Exactly. What was funny is that Brad Gilbert was just like, oh, I saw Rafa. He hit kind of early. He was hitting a ton of full hands, and he was ripping it. But you know how I know he was going to lose? Carlos Moya. Carlos Moya was nervous. And I'm telling you, you want to know what's going on with Divadal? Ask Carlos Moya. I'm telling you, even Papa, I mean, like, Djokovic was beating Divadal so badly. Divadal's daddy got white hair. All that jet black hair he had, it just turned completely white. It was done. I mean, Cersei was stunned. And you know Cersei is a robot. She don't say
Why you call her Cersei? You are so wrong.
Azika, whatever her name is. She was stunned. She looked around, was just like, this is not in the contract. Not in the contract.
The biggest thing for me overall, like, I don't care. I mean, I expected Nadal to win because he had been thrashing his opponents, right? And he gets to the end, and Tsitsipas loses to Nadal, and he says, that was on a whole nother level. I have never played anybody with that kind of level. And my eyes opened wide, and I thought, what are you just saying? You just played Federer. And, it wasn't a great Federer that you got, but damn, you're taking it there, bro. So I thought, wow, Rafa is really on. And the Rafa fans in my time are like, they're looking like Rafa is just in full-blown fucking beast mode. And am I crazy to think, what the fuck is going on here? 3 weeks ago, he couldn't play because he had a torn muscle. And now he's just like digging graves and throwing bodies in. But I mean, we overlook all that. And then here comes the final. And I'm like, I'm not getting up for that. No fucking way. We've seen this match before. I figured it would still be on when I woke up. It wasn't. And I'm fine with that too. But I saw the scoreline. I said, are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Rafa just ran through the draw. People are saying how he's in this unhuman-like form. And then Novak just demolishes him. Just beats the shit out of him. And I'm like, oh, does this say more about Novak or Rafa?
Well,
it says more about Tsitsipas, probably.
We may have to get some data for this kind of assessment, but I mean, it goes to show. Okay, I'm happy. I have to say, one, I'm excited that the match was quick. Okay, it was.
Thank
quick.
God.
Yeah. Oh, this is not 2011 all over again. Because 2011 they were playing long, drawn out, dragged out points. right?
12-hour matches.
Yeah, nobody had time for that.
Djokovic was just like an inch or 3 above Divadal level.
Oh man, you know exactly
this time
what
around
saying. You better say it.
Djokovic made Divadal look like I don't even know.
Child, a Futures Tour player.
It looked like Alex de Minaur showed up in the final against Novak Djokovic. That's what it looked like. You know what? You know what?
You guys.
Better yet, Divadal was treated like how we just treat Richard Gasquet. Sorry, Maya. I'm sorry. It was just a dragon.
No, it was so weird. Like I was watching a couple because I didn't care. So I was like, let me take a break. Maybe I'll check in on like set 3 because I was like, oh. So I started watching set 3, and what was so weird about it? The rallies. It looked like they were hitting with ping pong balls. Like, I don't mean ping pong balls. It was just the rallies were not brutal. Like as hard as Rafa tried to hit the ball, like Novak was there. So he looked like and it looked like a practice set. I was like, the brutality of the final from years ago was just entirely missing. So like everything was neutralized in that match. Everything. And so it looked like a practice set. It was very weird to watch.
I think maybe because we're used to the power ratio now, why it looked that way. Because in 2012...
there was no power.
Because, I mean, Divadal looked scared. He looked unsure of himself. He was 20 feet behind the baseline. And you know how
that usually works fine. That usually works. See, people say that about Divadal like it's a complaint, but he wins slam that way. He does that at the U.S. Open. Else. You know what I mean? Yes, but not to Djokovic, but I'm just saying.
The other person is usually 20 feet behind the baseline
Let me tell you. Listen. Novak was getting ready. This way he was listening to. This was his warm-up song.
You know what? It was so horrible, y'all. I went on my DMs and I was like, oh, how's the tennis? And somebody said on my DMs, I will not say who did. Somebody said Novak is dog walking Rafa. And I was like,
I said it. I said it
too. I need to lay down.
I said it too. I swear to God. Novak dog walking
No. Gluten-free, boo. Gluten-free.
Get me some. And have dinner with Roger.
But Novak already explained to y'all, I had elbow surgery 12 months ago, so I barely could move as well. And look at me now. And look at me now.
The greatest spitting contest I've ever seen in my life. Look.
I thought it was great though. I mean, I thought it was appropriate. I thought it was appropriate for where the ATP is right now, which is that people are looking at the resurgence of Novak and wondering how Rafa and Federer is going to be responding. And I was like, shouldn't you be asking about next gen?
Oh, Jesus. Look. I mean, maybe we could say the Russians, Medvedev and Khachanov, they might know how to deal with Djokovic. Maybe. I don't know, because I think Djokovic always lies, right? He always lies about how he's playing tennis unless he meets, then he meets Federer and he meets Divadal. He's like, that's when you see him at his best, right? When he plays those two players. But I'm telling you, there is no guards are being changed up here, please.
No.
No guards at all. No. And the sad thing is nobody looks like they're going to be even in the running to do it. But you know what? Life could change really quickly.
Yep.
I mean, life changed really quickly. I remember when Djokovic went. No, but the thing is, when Novak won Roland Garros, no, but remember when he ran Roland Garros, everybody thought he was going to go on a tear, and then guess what? He didn't. So life can change really quickly. Something could happen, and it all flips. But for right now, it looks like we're going to be talking about the same 4 players over and over and over again.
There ain't 4 anymore, and there's never been 4.
Oh yeah, we have to acknowledge that. Yes, Andy's sort of retired, but not retired. So
not yet. So, you know what? Listen, does this win mean anything for the rest of 2019? Probably not. It might mean, because Rafa will probably win Roland Garros again.
Oh, no.
It'll be...
No, honey.
If it happens tomorrow, I guarantee you, because of that shady, petty shit Divadal pulling that press in that speech,
Nole
It's
is
gonna,
coming for
it's gonna
that.
be Nole is gonna breadstick that bitch.
Well,
He
we'll
wants
see.
that.
I mean,
He
because
wants that.
I anticipate Rafa's got a re-injured thigh with it tore again after it just got healed at Hogwarts.
No, he's fine. He's fine.
And
He's
then
fine though.
he won't play again until Clay probably, and he'll be in
No, he
complete
says
beast
he's going.
mode.
He says he's going to
Rafa,
Acapulco.
listen,
No,
Rafa
Rafa
says
says he's
but
going to
meanwhile,
Acapulco.
lots of things.
Rafa
And-
always says he's gonna play Acapulco, then he show up in the press conference and start crying. Don't believe that,
Right.
Don't pay.
Well, what?
Don't buy your tickets if you're going to see Rafa.
Don't do it. Don't do
buy.
it.
Go to see Sloan.
But guess
okay?
what? Guess who is playing Clay season this year?
Who?
Roger Federer.
Oh,
So at least that's going to be a little bit
that's what
different
Federer
from the last
said. But
few
after you
years.
see Novak, I think you better keep his ass for the grass. Okay, Federer. No. Yeah,
I know, right?
Stay from this hot mess.
I think
I'm
it's
here
actually
for it.
hilarious. I think it's actually hilarious that we're contemplating the possibility of Novak getting all 4 slams, twice again, so that we can ignore it twice for a
But
second
hey,
time.
Oh my God.
Talking about,
Stop
but
it.
since let's,
It's
enough
true,
about this,
though.
I have to say that thank you, Emmanuel, for reminding me of another dog walk that happened in the ATP draw when Renit showed up to deal with Sasha Zverev. Ooh, even Sasha was dog walking
Oh,
himself
Sasha.
because he was like, the fuck.
Listen, you do what you can. You do what you can. You do what you can.
Trust me. I mean, of all the dog walking I expected, it was not this match. And Sasha didn't expect it either. Sasha was like me. But hopefully he learns a valuable lesson, okay? He takes nothing for granted. And I'm excited to see what he and Lendl can cook up to because, he's a slow burn. I mean, he's a slow
I don't
burn.
know.
But, I mean,
We'll
considering
see.
what I just saw here, boo, you're going to have to be the Sangha, boy. You're going to have to be Sangha. You're going to be the new Sangha, right? You're going to be trying. You're going to get to a final,
Stop it.
maybe.
No,
But it's not
he's
going to
gonna
happen.
do better.
No, honestly though, we need something different to happen. Because let me tell you something. If just in case y'all forgot, 2011 when Novak went on his tear was boring as shit. I don't care. Even if you were a Novak fan, it was.
Exactly.
I mean,
and people were excited for Federer to get his ass beat again in the French Open final because he stopped Nole. People were excited for
yeah,
that.
I mean, that's how bad it was. So let me just let you know that come 8 years later, it's still boring. It really is. I don't care. I mean, more people are cheering, more people are ready to care, I guess. But let me tell you, Novak on top was never fun. It never was, and it still is not going to be fun.
He sings and dance, and that shit ain't cute.
No, it's not even that. It's just like it's not his brand of tennis. That robotic thing that he does. It's just not that engaging. And now we don't even have. We have an older Federer and a problematic Rafa to try to hold this dude at the gate. And we don't. Yeah, we don't got anybody else. We don't have anyone else. So that's what makes this potentially nightmarish. That's all I'm saying. So I need the youngins to do something.
Yeah.
Because
they
don't actually match up very interestingly against Novak, really. None of them do. And so let's just
I have a suggestion.
Bow our heads.
It's gonna be no. Because tennis Jesus don't come through for Venus, and I'll be damned if he comes through for this shit show on the ATP. No, that's not how it works. But here I could solve 2 problems: the doubles problem and the Nole problem. So Nole plays against 2 players on the other side of the court.
Oh, cut it out.
You're a mess. No, I mean, I do think
of doubles and singles. That's happening at the same time.
I think it's going to be real interesting. I think it's going to be interesting. I think maybe finally the ATP will get a wake up call that it's entering its dark phase because this is not exciting. When you look out on the horizon and you think about Novak winning everything, which he can, I don't care if he does, that's fine. But he's just not that interesting a player to watch. And so who's going to check him? It can't be the 30-something-year-old. It just can't be. We can't be asking Federer to check Novak. Somebody has to be checking Novak.
So much. He can't.
That's because it's always Federer that checks Novak.
He can't carry the ATP children. He can't.
But he does, and he will, and it'll happen at some point.
Somebody needs to be checking Novak.
Fucking story, different year. It's not going to be anybody else.
I'm just hoping. Somebody? Is it going to be somebody? Anybody else? Maybe church?
Maybe. I don't know who else has the attitude for it. Maybe he'll bounce his booty out there.
I'm here for that though. I'm here Medvedev. I mean,
Tony says, when does Fed check Novak? Let it be known, Tony. I know
that he's
you're
the only one.
Wait. That's
whenever, the only one.
Whenever Novak goes on one of these serious runs where he's streaking the fuck out of everything and he hasn't lost in 20 years and he's holding all the titles, it's always Federer that puts an end to it, Tony. It is. Tony, and then he loses and he starts over, but it is true.
And then he loses brutally in a best of 5.
Tony, that is coming from a hard place, Tony.
Tony, don't you remember the finger lag at Roland Garros?
Tony isn't dealing with facts.
That's how it is. And also just best of 3s. In best of 3s, it's usually Federer that checks Novak. Yeah. But in best of 5s, no one's checking. No one's.
Those matches are also more interesting. Whether it's best of 3, best of 5, there's more drama, and whether it's an amazing tie break. It's just a better match between the two of them.
It's a better matchup. Their games match up well. That's all. So somebody needs that. Somebody needs to be doing that. Maybe Tsitsipas could do it. He was the one. Didn't he beat Novak in Montreal, or was that? Did he beat Rafa? I'm not sure.
Can it be somebody else?
No, it was.
I mean, if it has to be, it has to be. But can we not get?
It has to be Dirty Jesus. It's gonna be Dirty Jesus. So welcome, Dirty Jesus. Maybe we'll find a reason. You know how Tsitsipas sits up. You know how he looks so undone by Rafa. Maybe now he'll realize that his matchup isn't Rafa. His matchup is Nole. Mm-hmm. Get it? That's the matchup for you, boo. Because when Rafa saw you coming,
salad or whatever the fuck they
No, because when Rafa saw him coming, Rafa's like, "Oh yeah, I could do this. This is the Federer program." Matrix. Boom. That's what he did. So I'm just letting Tsitsipas know, do not despair. You're not meant to go up against Rafa. You're meant to go up against Nole. Yeah. Go do that.
Dominic will handle Divadal. He's coming this year. Or trying to. And that's all we can ask. Okay. That's all we can ask. But anyway, fans, yes, wrapping it up because, Andreen has a dinner date. I have to go finish cooking. Things are in the oven. And Janina, I don't know, she got to go do a parent, a wife, whatever. And she got to get ready for Ohio tomorrow. And I know we didn't have a midweek podcast, so we might be having another podcast. Oh, well, Janina already said we're going to have many podcasts. So if there's anything you felt that we haven't addressed, you can DM us and let us know, or tweet us, whatever the case may be, or comment, as you always should be commenting. We'll be happy to address them in a future podcast. And
congratulations to alternate universe winners of the Australian Open, which would be Danielle Collins and TFO.
Girl, that program, you need to cancel. That's a virus. That's the antivirus. That is
go into that alternate universe and live there for a bit, okay, y'all?
But, I mean, my last word
Take
would
all
be
the pills.
I know everybody's been side-eyeing doubles, but doubles is where the couples are. It's where the coupling are. It's when you see camaraderie. There's no fighting. There's no drama. And we saw Sam Stosur bring her good Judy, a good girl. She brought oh my God. She brought her friend Shui Zhang, and they were playing really well. And they won the doubles. It was exciting. They were a really good match. I saw Sam smiling. She was happy. It was exciting. And of course, Pei Yug and Nika were doing some inappropriate, too touchy-feely, which I'm all here for.
Oh my God.
When they won the Grand Slam, they won the Grand Slam of doubles. For the past 4 years, they've picked up a different major, and they have it all in the bag. But the French press are trying to call them the best doubles team. Bitches, Bob Bryant ain't dead yet. He's not dead.
Well, I'm just letting y'all know that we don't care about those things. So if we can make sure that happens for the doubles team, we can also make sure it happens for the singles player. We don't care about Grand Slams. Okay, y'all? We don't.
Well, okay.
It's where to get the most money. And if you have to split that money in half ways, I think you want to be winning.
No, I'm just kidding. no, I'm teasing. That's really good news for them. That's really good news.
Yeah, it's exciting. And they played a good contest. They played a very good contest. And interestingly enough, they might not play well against other players, though they played well this time around. But apparently they are the thorns in the side of the Brandt brothers because they were playing well this time around. They were on their way to winning.
Well, that's always good news.
Yes. Thank you, Terrence. Monfils and Svitolina play doubles. Well, we saw that. We already said that.
I mean, we could have broken that news for y'all last year when I sussed that out, but we let them break the news to you all. Okay,
but Andreen,
so, yes.
I thought of you so much this week because when Svitolina played Osaka, I was like, should I be shouting for Svitolina because she's fucking my friend, man? Should I be? You know what? Should I be doing that? I was conflicted. I was conflicted.
You know,
I have that I would be her friend or not be her friend, depending on what you want. So if you want me to be like fuck Svitolina, I mean,
it's okay. You know, Svitolina is my top 6, so I'm living vicariously through her and her Monfils relationship, so it's okay.
Monfils, I hope you know Svitolina is looking to get married, right? I hope you know that.
Leave it be. Maybe Monfils is looking to get married.
She ain't doing a Dominica, okay? She ain't just fucking around, okay? She going snatch. She want a ring on it. But anyway, so moving on. So this was about a 2-hour podcast, as we like to keep it nice and tight. Trinina said an hour. See where that goes. So Andreen, go enjoy Dennis. Enjoy the last hee-haw in Melbourne. If you see any hot, I told you if you see any hot Moari, man, you could.
Can't fit in the bag. It's been lovely, y'all. Chat with you all later.
Did you buy my ticket?
Bye.
He doesn't buy a ticket halfway, okay? He doesn't have to come all the way just to come to New York, okay? He doesn't go all the way to California. Anyway, folks, Osaka won 2 slams, and I think this is exciting for the WTA, even though it's not exciting for her. But I guess if somebody's exciting, that is exciting, I guess. But again, if you want us to talk about anything, just let us know. And good night, you all. Am I forgetting anything? And Janina would be in Ohio, and Andreen, pray for Andreen to get home safely, and that the government doesn't shut down again somewhere in between now.
You are so random. Goodbye.
Anyway, goodbye, people.